Good evening. Welcome to our webinar, Crafting Aesthetic Excellence, Medspa Launch Strategies and Digital Tactics for Patient Acquisition. My name is Rachel Lemieux, and I manage the corporate marketing at My Advice, and I will be moderating the event this evening. Our presenters today are Ashley James, aka AJ, CEO and founder of Dermaesthetics Consulting, and Robbie Antozzi, Senior Practice Growth Consultant at My Advice. AJ founded both DAC and the National Medspa Training Institute. With nearly 20 years of experience in the medical and aesthetic field, she has founded 4 award-winning medical spas, dermatology, and plastic surgery clinics. Just so impressive. AJ is not only a successful business owner, but also a recognized sales consultant, skincare author, laser trainer, and educator in the aesthetics industry. She's going to go into all of her accolades. She's a superstar. Robbie has 15 years of experience helping practices like yours grow, saving them time, earning more profit, and helping them to making them more competitive in their markets. He's been faculty for many aesthetic conferences that you might have been at, such as the Aesthetic Show, California Cosmetic Surgery, Aesthetic Multi-Specialty Society, words today, and many others. It's late. So some quick housekeeping before we jump in. We'll save all the questions for the end. Please continue as they pop into your head. Please submit them in the chat or the Q&A section, and I'll monitor those. And then just to let everyone know, I'll be sending a copy of the recording tomorrow morning. So whether you want to watch it again or you want to share it with one of your coworkers, don't worry, it will go out to everyone. And now I'm going to turn it over to AJ.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was a great introduction. I really appreciate that. Hi everyone. For those of you who know me, hi again. And for those of you who don't, my name is Ashley James. I go by AJ. I really appreciate the opportunity that My Advice has given me to speak to you guys tonight and to hopefully provide some guidance in the industry on how to position your practice for success. As Rachel indicated, I've been in the industry for a little over 20 years. I started my first practice when I was only 23 years old, didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I thought that I did. And thankfully was able to pivot and grow successfully. Since my first practice, I've owned 4 additional practices, dermatology practices, plastic surgery practices. I was one of the first to do concierge medicine in the Midwest, and have just really had a passion for this industry since the very beginning. One of the things that I really specialize in is startups. My husband calls me a serial entrepreneur because for me, there's something really special about taking an idea and working through the entire process to launch and watch it become a very thriving practice. So I have just been doing this for a really long time. I really love helping others help build their dreams of owning their own practice and helping them to be successful. And unfortunately, we also do a lot of med spa rescues because not everybody gets positioned the right way. And so hopefully in this webinar, we'll be able to teach you how to do things the right way. So yeah, we just kind of went over a little bit about what my background is. I've owned laser clinics. My first clinic I sold for $3 million. The next clinic that I owned was a plastic surgery and dermatology facility. I owned a dermatology and standalone med spa, and that was my last practice. That was my exit strategy, and I sold that practice for $8 million prior to becoming a consultant. I was the first nationally certified laser technician in the country. I'm sorry, the 5th nationally certified. I was the first non-physician to own a practice. So back 20 years ago, before there were laws, rules, and regulations, I was one of the very, very first in the Midwest to own a medical practice. And with that came some storms that I had to weather as this industry evolved and changed. I launched Medspa Mobile Solutions in 2022, where we design and build aesthetic vehicles for practices who are wanting to go mobile. And I've been an AmSpa affiliate for quite some time, and I am a trusted consultant and speaker for them as well. So in this webinar, what I really want to touch base on are just, really how to position yourself for success, how to really take the right steps in order to ensure that you're going to launch your practice the right way, but then ultimately be successful. So we're going to talk about the common mistakes that people make in aesthetic medicine. We're going to talk about proper planning and business strategies for success. We're going to talk about the internal processes needed for growth, leads and follow-up, what that's supposed to look like. Why consultations are your bread and butter, and why reputation and reputation management is your future. So when I talk to customers, whether they're wanting to start a med spa or they're already in the med spa and they're not really sure how to grow, really what I find are a couple problems that if you don't have these done the right way, or if you're not planning the right way, you're not going to be able to grow exponentially the way that you had initiated. Inaccurate planning or no planning at all is a big reason why med spas fail. I can't tell you how many times I've had a customer call me and say, AJ, I'm not growing. I did all the things. I made the investment. I've got the best practice. My location is amazing. I've got great staff, but I'm just upside down. And that's due to inaccurate planning or no planning at all. I don't know how many of you are listening right now that have maybe opened your business without a plan. Maybe you just rented some space, built a website, and you're like, let's go. And some people can get away with that and do just fine. But I'm here to tell you the majority of practices that don't have a plan and process will end up having some problems. So when I talk about that, I want to talk about, your financial plan. Do you know your numbers? Do you know the total amount of money that it's going to cost for you to launch your practice? And are you planning on how to support your practice while you're revving up and launching for growth? Other issues that we see is that, they don't know what their bottom dollar is going to be. They don't know what their overhead is going to be on a monthly basis. They don't have a plan on how they're going to earn new customers or what that cost looks like to earn new customers. They don't have an internal follow-up process for once they gain that customer. And there's just no planning. Although I'm from Iowa, this is not the field of dreams. So if you build it, they don't just come. So you absolutely need proper planning in order to be able to execute a business that's going to thrive. The other issue that we have is a lot of people get into this space that are not business experts, and that's okay. A lot of physicians that are in this space now, this is their exit strategy. Many of you who are listening are probably burnt out with the traditional practice of medicine. You're looking for something fun and upbeat and something that's going to generate a lot of revenue. And this industry definitely generates a lot of revenue, but you need to be a good manager. You need to be a good leader. Usually people are not both. So being able to lean on those individuals that have the expertise to guide you often helps. We're going to talk about intentional marketing. This is another issue that I see that people are not doing. So like I said, they're opening their doors. They've got the services they're ready to provide to their patients. They've got the employees, but they're not doing anything intentional for marketing. And what I mean by this is intentionally spending the money, knowing what your return on investment is going to be, knowing what type of leads you're going to generate with the amount of money that you're investing, whether it be lead generation or if you're building out your website with my advice, doing something intentional to capture those customers. Back when I first started my med spa, we didn't have a lot of internet. We had internet, but we didn't have social media. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have really, Google ads really wasn't a thing. It was all word of mouth, TV ads, radio ads, and really just kind of working that pipeline as much as you possibly could. Now, with how fast people obtain their information about businesses, your marketing has to be super intentional. You have to know what you're going to be spending and what you're going to be expecting in return. And if you don't know what that is, then, relying on companies like my advice or reaching out to Robbie and asking him, how much should I be investing and what should I be doing and what type of return can I get are really valuable questions to be asking and information to be obtaining. So when I talk about intentional marketing and the clinics that are not doing that, they're really just kind of throwing their money out there and hoping that the revenue will come in. And it just unfortunately doesn't work that way. And then more importantly is the lack of training. a lot of practices, a lot of practice owners don't realize that training should be one of the most important investments that you make. Investing into your team, investing into training is just going to help your practice to grow. And training could be a lot of things. It's not just aesthetic training. It's not just, making sure that you're properly certified. It's customer service. It's training on how we answer the phone. Your phone call is your first impression after they get through your website. What's the patient journey look like once the patient is in the office? So, a lack of training and not having all the systems in place is also another area that I see are big problems when practices are not profitable. So we're going to dig in this a little bit deeper here. When I talk about the number one area where people are failing and where they need to really be focused on to position themselves for success is the business plan and the financial pro forma. If you don't have enough capital to support the business during the initial growth, you're going to suffocate the business without even realizing it before you get started. So like when I talk about, purchasing too much equipment or hiring too many staff, really just not having enough money or enough investment to really float the business for the first couple months while you're starting up can be a big issue sometimes for practices. Not knowing your bottom line, not knowing what all of your expenses are. And I'm talking about down to the dollar. What is your inventory going to be on a monthly basis? What is your staff cost, your taxes, your insurance? What are your web hosting fees? What's your advertising, marketing? All of these things you need to account for and plan for so that at the end of the day, you know what your bottom line is, so that you know what revenue you need to shoot for in order to start making a profit. And then a big one is spending too much money before you hit your revenue benchmark. So I do a lot of med spa rescues, and what those are med spas that have all the best intentions. They've got great spaces, they've got great staff, they've got all the bells and whistles with equipment and technology, but they're just not financially thriving. And when I dig in deep to those practices, one of the things that I often find is that they've just spent too much money too soon. So one practice, and I'm not going to name them, they had over $20,000 in equipment leases, and they'd only been open for about 6 months. So they didn't have the patient base to really support all the different treatments that they were offering. And I'm a big believer in, really kind of specializing in a few services and treatments that you provide to identify yourself in the beginning, and then gradually adding on other services. We can't be the best at everything. And a lot of providers get into this industry thinking, I've got to have this, and I've got to have this, and I got to have that laser, and I've got to have this machine in order to be competitive. And I just don't agree with that. I believe that you need to figure out what your niche is and what your business identity is, and really focus on that for the first year or so, and then gradually grow by adding in different services down the road. So not investing too much in equipment before you're having the revenue to support that, not having too many employees that aren't producing for you, just really being aware of what your expenses are, what your revenue per hour is, and what your overall revenue expectations and goals are going to be. Number two is, having a brand voice. And this is where I'm going to have Robbie kind of pitch in a little bit here. One of the most important things in setting yourself up for success is just having the right brand, having the right brand voice, really identifying who you are in the industry, because let's face it, this is a highly, highly competitive industry. So you have to be able to set yourself apart from your competition. And you can easily do that with your brand voice and what you want your customer to feel when they're in your facility, when they see your brand, just really what your whole business is about. It starts with the website being a first impression. That is really what exudes your name and what you're about. Lead generation, having an effective plan in how you're going to capture these customers and capture these interests. And then what's that first impression look like?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't mind me just jumping in for 1 sec, AJ.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that we have to keep in mind here is that you want to be authentic to who you are and what you really want someone to feel. So as AJ kind of said, most of the time when someone is getting referred over, to your medical spa, um, they're going to see your website as that kind of first impression. And if the website doesn't really wrap a warm blanket around the person and say like, hey, you found the place to go to, take a look at everything that we do here. Here's our before and afters. Here's a little bit more about the vibe, so to speak, that you could expect if you walk into our doors. You have to make sure that those things are really done the right way, because again, the website is kind of the nucleus to, that entryway point into your practice.
100%. And then once you've done a great job at, letting the customer know and earning that customer based on what you're representing, then, being able to convert that customer into a loyal customer is essentially just as important. Training is the number one investment you can make. And like I said previously, the phone call is really another important step for building your practice. Once we have the beautiful website, once you've captured interest in your customer, they're going to call you. And if you don't master that phone call, they're going to go to the next practice because they have choices. That phone call is all about them collecting information to make sure that you're going to be able to meet their expectations and the services that you're offering. They're going to want to make sure that you're experienced and knowledgeable in the services that they're interested in. They need to be able to trust that you are able to provide the results that they're looking for, and they have to be able to like you. So in this industry, people purchase with people. It's really based on how you're making people feel. And if they're calling you and then during that first phone call, you're not really hitting all those little nuggets, they're not gonna schedule an appointment with you, and they're gonna keep calling until they find a practice that achieves all that. And so, for those of you that are listening, and again, some of you are my current customers, and for those of you who are not, I hope that you will be in the future. But let's just think to yourself, like, how many times have you guys called the doctor's office or a practice and someone answers the phone? It's like, hi, hello, how are you? Please hold. And it's not very warm. You're on hold for a really, really long time. They come back, hi, okay, thanks. This is Susie. How can I help you? Okay, I'm here to make an appointment. Okay, great. What time is available? What are you looking for? There's no warmth. There's no thank you for calling our business. There's no appreciation for the customer. There's not a lot of education and knowledge that's being provided to the customer. And so, what's different from traditional medicine versus, aesthetic medicine is that people do have a choice. They're coming to you because they have a choice. They're not coming to you because they're sick or, they need medication. I mean, in some cases they do, but they're coming to you because they want to look better. They want to feel better. And so, it's an option. It's very, very selective. So, that phone call is just as important as that website. That first impression on the website, how you're collecting and earning their interest, then filters over into the phone call. And really investing in that person that's answering that phone call to make sure that they can build relationships, make sure they are educated on all the services and procedures that you offer, that they know about your providers and what their experience is and how they're going to meet that caller's expectations are all so, so important. How many of you have, I'm not gonna ask how many you guys have done this, but one of the things that I have found in startups is the receptionist is often the person that is least thought about. So, the owners are trying to be conservative with their startup investment, which is fine, but they cut the budget on the receptionist. So they might have their mom come in and answer the phone, or they might have a child or, a college student come in and answer the phone because their initial is like, oh, they're just a receptionist. They're cheap. I only have to pay them $10 an hour or $15 an hour. And you couldn't be making a bigger mistake. Because again, that's your first impression. That person has to be knowledgeable. They have to know about your services. They have to be relatable to the customer. And I'm not necessarily sure that you can do that if you're hiring a college student or someone who's just there to answer the phone, because that's just not going to convert your leads into a booked appointment for you. So, that's another big mistake. That's an area that you really should be looking at and really focusing on if you're wanting to position your business for success. And when I am doing startups for my customers, this is an area that I really focus on. So making sure that your team is properly trained to handle those leads when they come in, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a web lead, whether it's an email, is essential for the growth of your business. And then, knowing how to talk to your customer, that kind of goes into the phone call. It also filters over into the consultation process, being able to listen to the customer and identify what their needs are, and then being able to educate them on how you can provide the solutions that will then, earn the business long term. I want to back up just a minute. I'll be very honest with you guys. It's very nerve-wracking to do a webinar where you can't see anybody. So I'm so used to like patient engagement or customer engagement and being able to talk back and forth. And so I'm just talking and trying to share this information with you guys. But I sometimes forget that I want to back up to really the full startup process. So most importantly, before ever getting into, launching your practice, you want to make sure that you're structured the right way. I don't know how many of you are on here that are maybe RNs that are looking to get into your practice for the first time. How many of you are non-physicians wanting to launch your own practice or are already in the practice? You can have the best brand, you can have the best website, you can have the best training and the processes internally, but you have to also have the right structure. As being someone who was one of the first non-physicians in the industry to own a medical practice, again, I talked about how there were no rules and laws and regulations back in the day. Well, there are now. And so many people don't know that you have to be structured the right way. A medical spa in most states is classified as a medical practice. So that means that unless you're an MD or a DO, you cannot own a medical practice by yourself. You have to have that MSO and MSA structure, which allows you to legally be able to run the med spa and own it. So if you don't know what that is, and if I sound like I'm speaking a foreign language to you, definitely need to call me so that we can have a conversation. Because structuring your business the right way is the number one way to position yourself for success. Then it's into planning and making sure that you have the right finances set aside for the growth of your business, having the proper brand voice, the proper way to capture your customers, and then going back into the lead follow-up process with the phone calls and the consultations. Anything that you want to add to that, Robbie?
I think that you're just spot on with everything, AJ. The one thing that I was going to suggest as well, that kind of wraps all this together is really understanding that, from what AJ said, having a good internet presence is not enough. You really do have to have the right structure. You have to have the right plan. And without having someone like AJ really guiding you through what that looks like, again, she's started medical spas, many medical spas. You need to have someone in your corner that is really there, that is receptive, that is, kind of been there, done it. And, what I see oftentimes when I'm speaking with medical spas, truthfully, calls almost on a weekly basis from someone who is like, yeah, you know what, I'm starting up my own medical spa. And I'll ask them these questions like, okay, have you budgeted for something like this? Do you have office space figured out yet? And most of the time, the answers to those questions are no and no. And, sometimes I'll even ask them like, well, what kind of encouraged you to start up a medical spa? And I think oftentimes what people see, they see the glitz and they see the glam on social media. And they think to themselves, hey, this is something that I could probably do as well. And I think that you don't necessarily want to get so caught up in that. I think that, again, joining up in this medical spa community is fantastic. It is only growing. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like, there is a lot of money to be made here, but you want to make sure that you are doing it and really starting up a medical spa in a very process-oriented type of way. Otherwise, you will find yourself as, kind of one of those med spa rescues, situations that you were kind of referring to, AJ, is like, hey, I have all of these things. I just don't know how to really get my name out there more, or I don't know how to establish better processes internally to better convert a higher volume of patients, whether that's the receptionist issue, like you just said. So there's a lot of things to really consider here before you actually do a deep dive into the pool. And I think, again, that conversation really begins with someone coming from that level of experience, such as yourself.
And Robbie, you really nailed it on the head there too, because, you know, back in the day when I first started my practice, not a lot of people could even pronounce the word aesthetic. It wasn't, you know, common knowledge what med spas do and what we were about and all the different solutions that we could offer to patients. And now there's a med spa in every corner. And I think that a lot of providers get into this because you're right. They do see all the money that can be made and they jump in full feet first without any type of planning or process. The big area that a lot of providers get, you know, upside down in is the compliance, the rules and regulations. This is a medical field, so there is so much more red tape and compliance that you're required to have. And if you're not structured the right way, guys, it's a felony. If you get caught practicing medicine and you are not a provider, or not an MD or a DO, and you are not properly structured as an MSO, MSA, that's a felony, guys. That's a big problem. So one of the very first things that we do when we have a customer that wants to open a practice is we develop a plan that we call as the 5 phases to success. And in that very first phase of our 5 phases to success, it's all about the legal structure. It's all about the compliance. It's, you know, what kind of SOPs do we have to have? What type of internal processes? Who's the medical director? What type of training does that medical director have? Do we need an MSO or an MSA agreement? What is that? And do we need to educate our doctor on what this is? And then it goes into just, you know, executing the planning. You've got to have the financial plan. You've got to know your numbers. You have to know how much money it's going to cost you to open up your practice. And guys, that's not just, okay, first month lease for my space and what it's going to cost to build my website and what is it going to cost to hire my staff. It's everything. It's, like I said, the insurance, it's the ongoing hosting fees, it's the ongoing supplies. You know, I do a very good job at developing financial performance for my customers that are going to tell them exactly how much money that's going to take for them to build their business. And then within our performance, they can see exactly when they're going to start making money. They're going to know their overhead. They're going to know their monthly expenses. They're going to know when they're going to need another employee and how much they're going to pay that employee, so that it's really a benchmark of what their success is going to look like and how long it's going to take them to get to that point. I have a client right now who, she's a dentist, and she's partnering with another medical provider, and she's just so burnt out of the dental field. She's you know, looking for an exit strategy, and she's never been in this field whatsoever. I mean, kind of in the dental field, but not full blown into the aesthetic field. And she says, you know, AJ, I'm going to start this part-time with my partner, but I can't leave until I'm making $250,000 a year. I'm like, all right. So we developed the business plan, we developed the financial pro forma, and I came back and I said, okay, by month 8, not only will you'll be generating that, but you'll be ready to expand and build out a brand new facility. She's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I'm not crazy. This is the plan and this is what's going to work. And because I've done that for so many people. And so, you know, knowing your numbers and knowing the plan not only gives you a little bit of reassurance on when you're really going to start generating your revenue, but it's going to make sure that you're not under budgeted and that you're not spending too much money that could quickly make you go upside down, if that makes sense. So yeah, you know, the proper planning is essential. And then, you know, going back into the marketing aspect, you know, once you have your financials planned, once you've got your space, once you've done your design and build out, you know, it's time to hire your team. You know, making sure that you have the right processes in place for them too, you know, making sure that their pay structures are correct. This is another area that providers really struggle in, I think. And I think, Robbie, you've probably heard this too, but a lot of providers don't know how to pay their employees. There's a very fine line on what is okay in this field and what's not okay. We really shouldn't be commissioning any providers because that's against the law in this field. And for those of you that are listening, you're like, wait, what? It's a real thing. You are violating medical rules when you are bonusing or you're paying commission on services that are medical. So again, you know, this is the medical spa industry, and a medical spa is classified as the practice of medicine. So paying commissions on services is like the anti-kickback law. It's illegal. So if you're doing that and you need to have a better way to compensate your staff, give me a call. I can help get you to where you need to be. But you know, knowing that, making sure you're not overcompensating your staff, making sure that you're paying per performance and that your employees are doing what they're supposed to be doing, making sure that they're hitting their revenue goals, they're retaining their patients, they're closing their consultations. These are all things that you need to be monitoring and making sure that you're excelling in within your practice. And if you're not, then making sure that you're taking the steps to get the proper training to change that. So let's talk about, you know, once the customer comes in, whether it's through your web, whether it's through social media, whether it's through a phone call, you know, that follow-up process, that response process is so important. And I'm going to just talk a little bit about why it's so essential. And maybe some of these figures or these statistics are going to blow your mind. Maybe some of you already know this, but the goal here is to really awaken you guys so that you understand why it's so important to follow up with your leads and to respond to your customers. A lead that comes in, again, whether it's web, whether it's an email, a phone call, you are 7 times more likely to convert that lead if you communicate and respond to them within 30 minutes. Guys, I don't even know how many times I've worked with a Medspa and they're like, AJ, you know, I really just plateaued. I want to grow. I'm not really sure what I'm doing that's preventing me from growing. I'll go in and I'll do a SWOT analysis. And one of the first things that I look at is their follow-up process. And so many times people are reaching out to the clinic, they are sending emails, they're filling out patient forms, and nobody is responding to them. I mean, one of my customers was having patients that are leaving phone calls on their voicemail and nobody was calling them back for like 3 or 4 days. I mean, just completely blew my mind. So, you know, responding to your customer within the first 30 minutes is super, super important. If you have a social lead on social media, I'm not sure how many of you guys are investing in a lead generation through social media, but you absolutely should be. But you have a 2000% better opportunity at converting that social media lead if you respond within 5 minutes. That's just crazy. And I mean, let's think about that for a second. So if you see an ad on Facebook and it says, you know, first Botox appointment, $200. Just throwing a number out there. And the person clicks and says, yes, I'm interested in that. And then it's just crickets. They're going to start looking around to go to somebody else that maybe offers something similar, or they're just going to forget about you and not book at all. But if someone clicks on that campaign or that ad and says, yes, I'm interested in that, and your response is, hi, Susie, that's great. I'm so excited to hear from you. I'd love to earn your business. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Now you're engaging with that customer right away. When they're interested, you're going to have a much better opportunity at developing that relationship and converting that lead into a booked appointment. And then the ability to convert a phone or web lead, it reduces pretty drastically about every 10 minutes. So the longer it takes for you to respond to that web lead or that phone call, the less opportunity you have to convert the lead. And so think about it. You know, if they call you and you don't return their phone call, guess what they're doing? They've already called 3 other clinics to find out about their pricing. They've already looked at somebody else's website. So again, you know, follow up process is where the fortune is in your business. You know, responding to those customers, answering their questions, really developing that relationship is just crucial for building a successful practice. More than 40% of patient inquiries are not followed up with at all. That is what I have found in this industry with the clients that I've worked with the practices that I've started, just industry in general. 40% of patients that inquire about services are not followed up with. That is just crazy. And then people purchase with people. You guys heard me say it before. They have a choice. So this industry is more about just the price and the service. You know, anybody can get Botox anywhere, but people are going to come to you because of your skill. They're going to come to you because they like you, because they trust you, and they believe that you're going to achieve and help them meet their expectations.
AJ, you also mentioned this a little bit earlier as well. I think that there is totally a big difference between, following up just to follow up versus following up with intent. Like when
Mhm.
someone can actually feel that warmth of the other person on the opposite side of the phone, it makes a tremendously big difference. And that is really where staff training comes into play, hiring the right person, someone who is more coachable. Let's face it, there are a lot of people that are out there that are not really coachable, that don't know how to be warm. So you want to make sure that, the people that you are hiring, they have the capacity to learn how to interact with people, how to make sure that that person feels most comfortable, because every single interaction with your practice, whether it's the first phone call, whether it's the consultation, whether it's anything, is going to increase the likelihood of whether or not that patient decides to spend more with you, not only just in that appointment, but also more down the road as well. So it is a delicate balance with all of this. You just want to make sure that you're keeping these strategies and these tactics always in the back of your head.
100% agree with you. You want someone that wants to be there. If your customer is going to be investing in your practice, if you want them to invest in your practice, then invest in the time it takes to build that relationship. And I'm going to get into that here in a little bit when we talk about the consultation process. That's another big area that providers fail in. But going back in just to what the fortune and the follow-up process looks like, you want to have a good lead capture form. If you're building a website, make sure that on that website you can capture people that are visiting your website, whether it's filling out a client form, whether it's having them sign up for a mailing list, just something that if they're visiting the website, that you're able to collect their information, and so that you can follow up with them and just say, hey, thanks for checking us out, and I'd love to learn more about you and see if we can earn your business. Going back into that call to action, whether it be a social media campaign where you're advertising Botox services or maybe free consultations, or just, doing a webinar like this where you can educate potential people who are interested in some of the services you might be offering, something that engages them and gets them interested in your business. Lead management system. I'm a big believer in a lead management system where you can keep all of your leads, where everything that you're doing, all of your resources from your web, your social media, phone calls that are coming into the practice, emails, are all being collected and managed in one database where you can easily organize and communicate with all your leads at once. Well, not at once, but in the same place, I think is very valuable and essential for a practice. Otherwise, your leads are going to fall through the cracks and maybe not be the most organized, or maybe Susie from the front office has already called the patient and left a message. And so you definitely don't want, Rosie in the back office calling 2 or 3 times and overwhelming the patient because they're at work or something. So just having an organized system and what that process looks like is super important. And then making sure that you're valuing the customer, appreciating them, thanking them for their business. Guys, this goes a long, long way. Especially for, you providers who are out there, who've been in traditional medicine for such a long time. What I find is you're very used to patients or coming to you for a need. They've got a headache, or they got, COVID, or, there's something internal going on. It's become very, routine, not a lot of, relationship building, not a lot of thanking them for their business. It was a long time ago. I would say it was a good 17 years ago. This is just a silly example, but I was on the phone with a really high-end 5-star hotel. And when I called and they placed me on hold, they said, "It would be my pleasure to connect you with the appropriate person. Thank you for calling. It'd be just one moment, please." And just the way that it made me feel was, I felt like I was 5-star. Wow, it was her pleasure to assist me, thanking me for calling and choosing that hotel. It goes a long way, guys. Think about the last time that you thanked a customer for just giving you business. Maybe you did it today. I do it every day. Every single person that calls my business, whether it's my med spa, whether it's mobile med spa, whether you guys are calling in for a consulting assistance, I'm always, thankful. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be a part of your growth, being a part of your future success. I know you've got options. I know you've got a choice. I really appreciate the opportunity to earn your business. That goes so far. So if I could give you anything today, one of the things, start thanking your patients when they call. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to earn your business. I know your time is valuable. Thank you so much for calling. What can I help you with? That goes so far. And then really making sure that you're, outlining your right to sell. And you'll hear me say this a lot. Your right to sell is really kind of like your resume. When people are calling you and they're inquiring about your business, it's your job to educate them on who you are and why you're amazing and why coming to your practice is going to be a benefit for them. So educating them on that, converting the lead for the caller, and then obviously the follow-up process. So this one's going to be a little touchy. One of the main areas that I talk about in order to be a successful practice is you have to be able to master the consultation. And not everybody agrees on this, but I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this for 20 some years, and I've worked with practices who refuse to do this, and I have other practices that do it and they master it and they build millions. The consultation process is where your bread and butter is. Like I said, people purchase with people. And if your customer is taking the time to visit your office out of their day to learn about what you have to offer, it is your job to give them all the time that they need to build that relationship. Obviously, I can't ask a lot of questions to get response back, but one of the biggest mistakes I see in practice is that their consultation process is not long enough. They are doing consultations in the exam room. Their consultations are maybe 15 minutes long. Their consultation is only talking about what the patient scheduled the service for and not really anything else. And they're treating the patient the same day. So if any of you guys are listening to this and you're saying, oh my gosh, that's what I do, you're doing it all wrong. You are setting yourself up for very limited revenue. When you are doing your consultations in the exam rooms, you are missing the opportunity to really connect with your patient. You are more worried about making sure that you're getting that appointment done that they scheduled rather than really understanding your client's full need. Maybe they scheduled a Botox appointment, but maybe there's more to it. Maybe they're doing the Botox appointment because they just feel very insecure with the way they're looking. Maybe they just went through a divorce. They're starting to feel older. Maybe they also have concerns about their sagginess in their skin. Maybe, it could be a lot of different things. But if you don't set aside time to really connect with that patient, to really learn all the reasons and all the things that they're interested in and really what their why is, you could be leaving a ton of revenue on the table. I'm a big believer in developing full treatment plans. So if you're going to come into our office, I'm not just going to talk to you about one service. I'm going to talk to you about all the things. I'm going to talk to you about how to prep your skin for the treatments to get the best results. I'm going to talk to you about the treatment plan. I'm going to talk to you about what we're going to do 3 months after that treatment plan has been completed. I'm going to talk about the follow-up care and the at-home maintenance, and then what we're going to do next year. The reason that I do that is because in most situations, there's a lot of things that the patients need. And as much as I would love to say, poof, I'm your fairy skin mother, I can't correct everything in one day. Botox is not going to correct everything. Filler is not going to correct everything. There's a full treatment plan. And when you're doing a full treatment plan like this, not only are you going to give your patient the best results possible, you're going to build more revenue for your business. You're going to be able to create excellent results, and that's going to create loyalty within your patients. Typically, my rule of thumb is, your consultation should typically be about 45 minutes to an hour. And for some of you, I'm sure they were just like a mic drop. But that is real. Think about it. If you're wanting your customers to trust you, to believe in you, to invest in what you think you can do for them, you can't achieve that. You can't build a relationship in 15 minutes. You just can't. This is such a personal experience for everyone, whether it's the 22-year-old who wants to have, you know, the Kylie Jenner lips, you know, or it's the recently divorced mom who's just feeling really bad about herself because her husband left her. Or maybe it's the woman who's been on semaglutide and lost a ton of weight, and now she's feeling insecure about the excess skin that she has. There's always a why. And this is a very personal experience, because at the end of the day, people want to look good. They want to feel good. And when they look good and they feel good, it's amazing how life-changing that can be. And for me, that's my why. That's what I do. When I owned my practices before, that was my why. I love getting up in the morning and knowing that I was going to change somebody's life. And yes, that sounds very whatever, but it is. I mean, I could tell you story after story after story about how many women or men have come into my clinic feeling very low about themselves, and we can make them feel confident in who they are. I've seen them get new jobs. I've seen them get new marriages. I've seen them just be happier people all around. And for me, like, that's God's work. And as a consultant, I now get to do it on a bigger scale. I get to help physicians and providers make their dreams come true of owning their own practice. I get to show them exactly what needs to be done in every step along the way to help them be successful, and to give them that support to ensure that they're going to be successful. And you're essentially doing the exact same thing every single time a patient comes and sits into your consultation chair. If you are one of those individuals that is saying, you know, I don't like to sell. I don't want to sell. The consultation process is just sales. I'm not a salesperson. It's not my job to spend their money. If that is you saying this to yourself right now, this is what I'm going to say. It is your job to give your customer all the information and all the potential solutions that you have available to achieve their goal. If you're not sitting down with your customers and telling them all the things that they can do and educating them, then you're not being the best provider for them. It's think of it this way. If you let me think of a really good medical condition. Let's say you have breast cancer, God forbid, and you go into your provider and they just give you two options. Are they doing their job? No, they're not. You need to know all the options so that you can make the best decision that's right for you and your family and for your lifestyle moving forward. And so think of it that way in this industry too. You have to give them all the options. It's up to them to decide, but if you're not at least spending the time to give them the options, they may have needed an option and went down to the next med spa down the street for that option. You just don't know. So I believe that the consultation process is really where the bread and butter is. You know, your consultations can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue growth. This is really how you grow your practice. And if you are not converting about 70% of your consultations, then you need training. And that's definitely something that we can help you with. Sales is my jam, education, the consultation process is my jam. And it's really the number one way to grow your revenue and to grow your practice is through the consultations. So when we talk about the consultation, I have a specific process. I actually train on this called Consultation 101, Close More Consultation System. Consultations closed in the double digits is something that I'm very good at teaching. This is just a couple little tidbits from that on how I position my consultations and how you should be positioning your consultations. Number one process is your right to sell. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but this is really just giving your patient the education, who you are, what your practice has done, and why you're amazing. It could be awards that your provider has had. It could be community awards, maybe best of the best awards. It could be specialized training. It could be your why on why you're in this industry. But this part of the consultation process, if you do a good job at educating on why you're in this field and why you are the best, before you even go to the next step, the customer's already decided they want to do business with you. So, you know, at this point, you know, they want to work with the best. They want to know that they're working with the best. They want to be able to trust you. And this is where you're able to do that. The second step is really determining your customer's why. Why are you here? What can we do to make you feel better? Is there something in your life that's happened? Is there a reason that you're looking for some change? Really listening to your customer and understanding what their why is then leads you into asking the right questions. So I'm a big believer that this is all about developing relationships. And so for me, it's about connecting with my customer. It's developing that relationship. And so here are some questions that I like to ask. How long has this been bothering you? Talk to me a little bit about this. How does that make you feel? Has this affected your life? What treatments have you had in the past? And were you happy with those treatments? Asking all these different types of questions really helps the customer to open up, but more importantly, it's developing that relationship. When you can get your customer to kind of open up and answer these questions and you can learn where their why is, then that really ensures that you're going to be recommending a treatment plan that's going to meet that why and achieve their expectations. How committed are you to achieving your results? This is a big one. For those of you that don't like sales, it's really just education. But one of the things that people always say is, I don't, price objections. I'm really bad about that. I really struggle with, telling a customer that their treatment plan is going to be, $12,000 or $11,000. Just talk about it. Just talk about it like you would with a girlfriend. What's holding you back? Do you have a budget? And some of them will tell you they do. They'll tell you exactly what it is. And it's your job to try to figure out a treatment plan and figure out a solution that's going to meet their budget. But for those of you that have heard the customer say, well, I don't really have a budget, or I'm not really sure, and they're kind of a little reserved about that, I like to joke around with those customers and just say, okay, so no budget. We're going to work with $1 million then. I can work with that. And then they joke around, they laugh. No, not $1 million. Like, okay, 100,000. No. I'm like, okay, so what are we working with? Is there a budget in mind that, what have you set aside for yourself to help make this a reality for you? What are you committed to doing to improve the way that you feel and to achieve your results? And when you approach money that way and you approach the investment that way, you'd be surprised about how more likely they are to open up. I've got $1,000 saved, or, I've got an extra $100 a month or $200 a month that I really want to start using on myself. So get them to talk about that and make sure that if you do that, then you're developing a program or a treatment plan that's going to fit within that lifestyle for them. And then, really get them to confirm that. So if I can do all the things that you talked about, if I can make the wrinkles go away and I can tighten up your nasal folds and I can rebuild the confidence that you have, make you feel younger, make you feel more refreshed, and really put that pep in your step again, would that be worth $250 a month? Or would that be worth $300 a month? Get them to say, yeah, if you could do all those things, that would be something that I would definitely do. And then go through the payment options and the treatment plan that you have for them and talk about all the things that are available. I also am a big believer in doing some internal patient financing. Most practices are already set up this way, but if you're listening and you don't have patient financing in your practice, this can really be a drastic change in your ability to grow your practice. Having some options for patients to be able to finance their options will allow you to recommend treatment plans and allow the patient to pay over time while you're getting paid up front. There's many that are out there. One of my favorites is Pay with Cherry. Obviously, everyone knows about Care Credit. But I'm sure that you all are signed up with one of these programs. This is a great way to really offer your patients flexibility in the treatment plans that you're developing. And so really just to kind of touch base on some of the things that we've talked about today, guys, I've been doing this a really, really long time, and you got to have the right planning. You have to have the financials. You have to have the right strategy for building your practice. It starts with the budget and a pro forma to know your numbers. And then, it starts with how you're going to build your practice. How are you going to position yourself in the market? What are your competitors doing? And what are you doing differently that makes you unique? What does your website say to your patients? What does your internal process say to your patients? Do you have good reviews and reputation management? How are you nurturing your patients? These are all things that you should be thinking about for long-term success. If you don't know what your revenue drivers are, if you don't know what your conversion ratios are, if you don't know what you're making revenue per hour, these are all things that we can help you with. These are all important factors in knowing how to grow. You don't know how to grow, and you can't grow unless you know where you're at. And then making sure that you're investing in developing a good culture for your staff, that you're investing in sales training, and investing in skills training. So if you have already started your practice and you're still feeling like you're not really sure, I'd love to just set up a time with you and just dig in and see where you're at. For those of you that are considering launching a practice, I'd love to talk to you about that and all the ways that my firm can help you. Yeah, so Robbie, it's been great. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your customers. I prefer it back and forth, how I feel about
Sure.
webinars. I'm a very much an in-person and a Zoom kind of girl,
Totally.
but yeah.
I will say, AJ, that you knocked this completely out of the park, though. There's so much information that you just covered, so many little nuggets that everyone here is going to be able to walk away with. So every time that you speak, I learn something new from you. So it was really, really empowering and great to hear, you just present on all this information. I think it was fantastic. And next time, I do promise we can do a little bit more of like an interactive one-on-one session.
Yeah.
If you would make it a little bit more of like a fireside type of, situation, and open up the floor a little bit more, if you will. But
Well,
yeah.
I love it. I love it. I wish I could have heard some of the people that are on here and been able to like listen to some of their questions and be able to answer them directly. Because I'm a problem solver and I'm a strategist. So, I can tell you all the things that work and how you should do it, but every business is unique and every startup is unique. And so I love to just listen and provide feedback, and,
Sure.
I'm able to direct that way. But
well, what
yeah,
we're going to do here is, we're going to follow up with all of the individuals who registered, for this. And you're going to have all of our, complete contact information. So AJ's contact information is going to be there, a booking link for her as well. So anyone who is going to be watching this, even after this presentation here today, by all means, reach out to AJ, reach out to myself, and we would love to really invest our time into helping you really grow your business. That's really what this is all about. And, if everyone still has maybe another 20 minutes or so, there are going to be some abbreviated subject matters that I would like to cover relative to your online presence. AJ, I'm assuming that you're all wrapped up. Is there any other last sentiments that you wanted to share with the group at all?
No. This is everything that I really wanted to talk about the startup process. I'm really eager to listen to you share all of the knowledge that you have about the websites. I'm a big believer in the websites that you guys create. Again, it's the first impression. It's so important, and everything else after that is kind of where I come in. But without that online presence, without that lead process, it is difficult to grow. So yeah, I really eager to listen to you share. I know you've worked with a lot of my customers. I referred you guys a lot of customers. You guys have built my websites, or you're rebuilding my websites, and they're all so beautiful and so functional, and they're great.
We appreciate that, AJ. Yeah. I think what makes us click here is, we have a really similar philosophical outlook on really building businesses. And as AJ kind of said, the way that you really want to attack this when you are starting up a medical spa, or if you're, kind of at this place where you're plateauing, you do need to have a plan in place. You do need to speak to the right people. You need to make sure that you're making the right investments. When it comes down to your digital strategy and really utilizing your internet presence as a new patient acquisition resource, it is seriously no different than that whatsoever. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I am going to begin this part of the presentation. Can you see my screen? Is everything good here? All right.
Yeah, that looks
great. Good. Great. So the second part of this is going to be about really establishing a strong internet presence that any medical spa can really work with, and obviously lean on your online presence, not only as a new patient acquisition resource. Obviously, having an internet presence, having marketing in place is all about growth, but it's also equally about really converting a higher volume of word of mouth patients as well. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of medical spas. The most successful medical spas that I work with are, oftentimes word of mouth driven as well. So where we really help fill in the gaps is to help them really expand past word of mouth, understanding that there are 8.5 billion searches being done on Google every single day. Half of those searches are localized searches. So in other words, people looking for localized options. I could be pulling out my phone. Tonight is the night where I'm in the mood for Italian food. So I'm going to type in best Italian restaurant near me if I'm in a new city. So understanding that as long as we are conditioned to go to Google as a information resource to help us find what we're looking for, this is also a really strategic area that you want to have a high focus on if you're trying to grow out your medical spa, trying to find the right types of patients. And that's a big point as well, is the right types of patients, because what we're not trying to attract in here, and AJ can totally attest to this as well, is we are not trying to attract the Groupon type of patient into your practice. That's not what we want. We want to attract the intent-based type of patient into your practice. And typically, again, if I wake up and today's the day, I'm tired of looking at myself in the mirror. I want to look younger again. I want to feel empowered. I want to get that job. I want to do whatever what's on my mind. If today is the day and I'm trying to find someone to help me feel better, empowered, help me feel confident, I want to get rid of these wrinkles, I want to get rid of these bags underneath my eyes, whatever. If today is the day, I'm going to go to Google to find what I'm looking for. And I'm going to type in my search bar, medical spa near me, Botox injector near me, lip fillers near me. And oftentimes that is what individuals are leaning on to find what they're looking for. So bottom line, you have to have all of these things really humming for you, not only just an awesome website, but you also really need to have the right visibility strategies put into place to make that website appear better within localized Google search. So I'm going to be touching on some of these subjects today, but before I really do that, before I give you kind of that roadmap into what that looks like, I want everyone to really understand that, there's this concept that I preach all the time, Medspa patient lifetime value. Really understanding that, the patient who is coming to you today for fillers, for injections, for whatever, that is not a single transaction. If you take good care of that person, they're going to come back for more. And guess what else they're going to do? They're going to recommend your services to friends and family members and everyone that they associate with because they're really happy and they feel good about themselves. And the more that you can really do that with your patients, the more that you can have them be raving fans and like, wow, I'm a champion of this medical spa because of how they make me feel. Your business is going to grow. So it's really getting out of this mindset that, hey, that patient is coming to me today just for some Botox injections. If you take good care of that person, they continue to come back to you. The average lifetime value of just one medical spa patient is $57,000. So we think about that, and we want to take everything that AJ also talked about into consideration, from the initial phone call to the consultation to everything that we are really, every touch point of this patient, we want to make sure that they're having a good experience. And obviously, a part of that touch point is your online presence as well. We want to make sure that they feel good, that they have the right information once they land on your online presence. So I'm going to show everyone today. Again, this is going to be just a little bit of an abbreviated type of presentation when it comes down to this entire concept. And, similar to AJ as well, what I would encourage everyone to do here is to reach out to us to schedule up a interactive one-on-one strategy session with either one of us, where we can really get into the weeds a lot more with your particular business and really talk about your specific needs. But let me just make this brief introduction here into what we call our pyramid of success. I want everyone to think about this almost like a playbook or a recipe that goes into building a digital presence the right way. So in other words, there are strategies that need to be done before other strategies. In the same way, I'll just give everyone an example here. If I was a smoker and a drinker and I ate like crap and I was 450 pounds and I reach out to a medical spa owner and I say, hey, I actually want to get rid of this double chin. So can you please inject me with some Kybella? I hope that a medical spa owner would say, you have more foundational issues, that need to be attacked first before I can actually give you good results by injecting you with Kybella, right? So in other words, like, that's not going to work. you first have to stop drinking, you have to stop smoking, and you have to lose a lot of weight first, right? Before I can actually give you sustainable results. So in the same way that, that kind of thought process and that concept happens with aesthetics, it's kind of the same thing with your online presence. In other words, you don't want to run like a paid ad campaign if you have a crappy website. You don't want to run a paid ad campaign if you only have 5 Google reviews. So the first thing that we're really going to focus on here first is really the website, because the website is the nucleus to your digital presence. It is what someone sees first. Obviously, it's the first impression. And what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to kind of do this rhetorically. This next slide here is going to showcase 6 different screenshots of websites. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to exude why first impressions really matter a lot. So again, you're about to see 6 different screenshots of 6 different websites. And just in your head, I want you to, and maybe AJ, you can play along here, kind of think about which ones resonate with you the most, which ones felt really good. And I'm going to show this slide to you for just 3 seconds, because again, first impressions don't last forever. And think about which ones really felt good once you see this. So here we go. AJ, you're going to be my guinea pig here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Okay, so here they are. Okay, I gave you a little bit longer than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Which one?
The one that stood out to me more than any of them was number 6.
Number 6. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go take a look at these again. So number 1 here, number 1 kind of feels like a pamphlet more than a website.
Right.
The other thing that I will say as well is that you never really want to show the process of injecting, because truthfully, not everyone is really head over heels about injecting. Some people don't like needles. So you don't like to show the process. You really want to show the end result and how you actually make someone feel after they come in and go through your treatment options. So number 1, again, doesn't really feel great, questionable imagery, so on and so forth. I coincide 2 and 6 together, because 2 and 6, the images are larger. It kind of feels a little bit more, 2, I guess the operating word that I would use when I look at 2 is kind of like exotic. And I don't know if it's the gal's eyes here, but it just looks a little bit cleaner. It looks more modernized. Number 3 here, number 3 still has one of those website ticker counters on it. If you remember those from the 90s, AJ, like, hey, you're the 100th visitor to this website, congratulations, right?
Right. Right.
It doesn't look good. Number 4, kind of the same thing. So you get the idea here. First impressions really do matter a lot. And understanding that, if you're not responding back to that person right away, especially after they pick up the phone and call or submit an inquiry, they're likely going to go somewhere else. So the website is really kind of the focus point of that first initial interaction with the patient. And you want to make sure it's done the right way. So just so everyone knows, websites are a part of what we do. When we are taking over a practice, and if they don't have a good website, if the website is not ADA compliant, you can ask me about that later as well, anyone who is listening to this. If the website doesn't have a solid before and after gallery on it, if it doesn't have good conversion tools, then it's not going to help you out from a financial standpoint. Case in point, okay? So we want to make sure that that's done the right way. And to your point, guess what, AJ? You win. Number 6 was the winner here. So next slide. After you have a website really done the right way, you want to make sure that the website is really well optimized locally for Google search. When I say locally for Google search, what I'm referring to is when someone is going to Google, and again, we're in need of something. My dry cleaners a couple of months ago closed. So it's not like I drive around town looking for a new dry cleaners. I'm pulling out my phone and I'm typing in dry cleaners near me because I'm looking for a new dry cleaners. So why are we using the vernacular of near me? We're using the vernacular of near me because we're looking for convenience. If we know that a local option exists and we don't have to travel far to get what we need, then that's a good thing. So the way that you really optimize your website locally, specifically for those near me related searches, is that you want to have consistency across the internet into what are called your NAP directory listings. So NAP is an acronym for name, address, and phone number. And here's what happens. When you have a business, your information is published across the internet, whether you like it or not. And sometimes businesses, especially medical spas, they go through sometimes rebranding as an example. So for this particular practice here, like their business name now is 3 Points Wellness, Weight Loss, and Laser Sculpting. So they rebranded themselves to that. But as you can see, when you look at all of these different directories here, even the ones that you've never heard of before, they still do matter, by the way. There are many different variations for how this business name actually is across the internet. You know, if you look at the Bing listing here, it says 3 Points Wellness and Weight Loss. Well, that's different than up at the very top here where it says 3 Points Wellness, Weight Loss, and Laser Sculpting. So the whole idea here is that you start to dilute your trust within localized Google search for those near me related searches, unless you have complete consistency across the internet into every single one of these directories that you see here. And there's actually around 65 of them. So this would be an example of something that no human can really do on your own. It requires a piece of technology. And as a part of our improvement strategy, when we're working with medical spas, we're trying to really lay a better foundation for SEO purposes and having an online presence. This is really the first thing that we do and attack, because it does make your website presence more likable within localized search. So again, even if you're taking a look at this, thinking to yourself, well, shoot, I've never heard of Merchant Circle before. I've never heard of City Search. Like, why do these even matter? They matter because Google likes consistency, bottom line. And when everything is consistent across the internet, you're sending Google those localized trust and confidence signals. And then the yield of that is that you're better optimizing your website for those near me related searches. I hope that that makes sense. But again, I would be happy to, pull a report for you, the person who is watching this webinar, if you want to see how your particular business is showing up like this. So again, that's why we focus here. There's a lot of people searching locally. We want to make sure that we're optimizing your internet presence for those people. Step number 3 here is really your online reputation. And AJ, you touched on this a lot as well. Your online reputation is your calling card. Oftentimes in conjunction with the website, it's also a really, solid or not so solid first impression. Guys, reviews are how we make everyday decisions. It's how we're conditioned. I mostly blame Amazon for that. When we go to Amazon, we're looking to buy something. It doesn't matter if whatever we're looking to buy, that could be a $15 something, we're still going to compare what reviews are for that particular product. And you have to make sure that you have a solid review strategy. So one thing that I hear all the time with medical spas is, gosh, Robbie, I have so many happy patients and they tell me all the time that they're going to leave a Google review, but they never end up doing it. And I'll ask the practice, well, how are you also contributing to empowering that patient in order for them to leave the review? In other words, how are you making it easy for that patient to leave the review? And most of the time, they're not really doing anything. So what we've found is that if you're really trying to generate reviews, and why reviews really matter again are because it's a solid first impression, but it's also really a great way of boosting up your Google visibility. You need to make it superior you need to make it super easy for that patient to actually leave the review. And the way that you do that is that you need to have a software put into place. And if I'm a patient, if I'm coming in, you should be asking me like, hey, Robbie, did you have a good experience today? And if I say, yeah, everything went really great, thank you so much, that's kind of your green light to then say to me, Robbie, that's fantastic. I'm happy that you're happy. Hey, look, if it's okay with you, I would love to send over a text message to you. And if you don't mind leaving us some feedback about your experience, that would be really appreciated. That's all that you really need to say. And what you don't want to say is that, hey, I'm going to send over a text message, leave us a 5-star Google review, because that sounds really, really salesy. But if you're like, hey, genuinely, again, showing that warmth, hey, I'm going to send over a text message to you. And if you don't mind leaving us some feedback, because feedback is kind of open-ended, that would be really appreciated. That sounds so much better. So we actually have a piece of technology that we call Review Power that we train our clients on. And it's a text messaging tool where basically once you kind of get that green light from the patient, they're happy, you send over a text message and everything is integrated with your Google profile in order to make it really easy for that patient to actually leave the review. It's super, super easy. So again, I can show everyone that as well in a separate setting. Step number 4 here is social, and really understanding, the importance of consistency when it comes down to social media. I will be the first one to say that any type of practice, especially in medical aesthetics, authenticity is really key on social media. Do not follow the leader here. This is not the area for you to do that. This is the area for you to show your true colors and what you want someone to feel. And the more that you do that, the more that you can share that level of authenticity, you're going to gravitate towards acquiring more of the right types of patients that you want to see. So again, what I see all the time is a lot of injectors. AJ, I'm sure that you see a lot of this as well. Kind of doing those voiceovers. And I'm not saying that you don't have to do those voiceovers. And yes, that's fun and playful stuff, but don't have that be everything that you do. Really showcase who you are. And if you're really authentic with that, it's a great way of really growing your community. So the best type of social media, again, is always going to come from you, the person. And I think the biggest thing to really understand about social is that people really do connect with people. And the way that I know that, this slide is a couple of years old, but it still really hits home. Everyone knows the company Progressive, the insurance company Progressive, right? So a couple of years ago, this is a screenshot actually from their Facebook profile. They had 343,000 likes to their Facebook page, right? So that sounds like a lot of people. Like, okay, Progressive, we all kind of know Progressive, but who is the actual person? Who is the persona of Progressive? Who do you see in the commercials?
Oh.
Flo. That's right. Everyone knows Flo. So comparatively, Flo has 5 million people who like her page versus, again, the Progressive, who has 343,000. So you are the brand, even if you have your business name as Align Aesthetics, as an example, you are still the brand, the injector behind Align Aesthetics, right? Why someone is actually coming to see Align Aesthetics is because of you. So showcasing that on your social pages, making sure that you are posting great before and afters, making sure that you are really exuding that you are changing someone's life for the better, that they're getting their confidence back, is always the best type of content. Now, what I will say is this, though, is that most injectors, not all, but most, they do struggle with consistency. And they think to themselves, like, shoot, here I am. I'm going into another week. Like, what am I posting on my social media this week? So that is where we actually have a service where we actually have content writers, people who specialize in creating Medspa related content for, our clients. And we kind of help them fill in the gaps relative to social consistency. Is our program meant to be a replacement to everything that I just said in terms of like, hey, showcasing a before and after, or hey, I'm doing this community event? Like, no, we can't be there for those things. And those are things that you should always be posting about. But in between those moments, if you need help with consistency, we do have a program for that I would love to show you more about as well. But the point being here is this, is that yes, you do want to make sure that you're showcasing your personality, make sure that you know that you are the brand behind your business. Okay.
Well, and I'm going to interject here really quick,
Please,
Robbie.
go ahead.
We've talked a lot about first impressions today. It starts with the website. If people are interested in a med spa near you, they're going to look for the website. And then honestly, they're going to go to social media and they're going to go to social media specifically to see that personality. When we talked about your right to sell, that all plays into it. They want to see that personality. They want to see your before and afters. They want to see why you're so amazing. And then they make the phone call. So it's a lot of providers that are coming out of traditional medicine, they kind of leave the social media aspect kind of off the table. I don't do social media. I don't have a Facebook page.
Right.
I don't do TikTok. Guys, I'm going to tell you, I don't do TikTok, and I have to have people help me with that because it's just not my area, but it's an area that you have to get familiar with. So, again, I have that a lot with doctors are saying, I don't want to get into social media. You need to be into social media. If you don't want to do it, hiring and investing in someone that'll do it for you internally at your practice and with the help of Robbie is crucial.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, AJ. Yeah, and I get it. I mean, from a business owner standpoint, it must feel like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. There's always things changing within social media. It must feel like it's a whole other job in a lot of ways as well. And that's why, thinking about having some sort of fractional outsourced mechanism that can help you really guide you through those steps is really going to be crucial, because AJ is completely right. Having an active social media presence is no different than keeping your lights on within your business, truthfully. And that's not meant to be like a scare tactic type of statement. It's just the truth of where we're at as a society, what people look at. We go through our mental steps. So again, hey, I'm getting referred over to this medical spa. Okay, I'm going to do a Google search for them. Okay, great. Their Google reviews check out. Okay, let's look at the website. Okay, once I land on the website, let's look at the before and afters. Okay, everything's kind of checking out here, but let me then go over to social media. I want to see, social media is really the place where you get to, again, showcase your personality a little bit more. So let's actually meet the providers a little bit more. And that's really where your opportunity is on social media, to exude like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what I value. And if you have those great connection points that really do a good job at emotionally connecting with someone, you're going to find that you're going to convert a higher volume of the right types of patients, for sure.
Well, and Robbie, when I'm doing startup plans, I always incorporate some type of marketing manager internally. Just, I think they're just as important as the receptionist, but a lot of practices don't have the budget for full time. So that's where your services really have come into play for a lot of my customers.
Sure.
But also, I think it's important to also recognize, for example, plastic surgery 10 years ago, you always went to the website to look at before and after photos. Now people are going to social media to look at those before and afters before they ever decide to even pick up the phone and call. So if you're not doing it, it's definitely an area that you need to start doing. And if you don't have the internal support, then this is definitely something that you should be investing in.
Yep. So kind of working our way to the top here of this pyramid. One of the last subjects that I wanted to cover with everyone is the importance of having some level of strategy when it comes down to ongoing search engine optimization. So anything that I talked about today so far, by the way, has to do with search engine optimization. So building a good website with good content, having correct directory listings in terms of your business information, having an active strategy when it comes down to reviews as well as social. I mean, all of that is really search engine optimization driven. Those are all things that Google really looks at. But, typically what I recommend is, and it's kind of getting interesting, because what I was going to say is, if you're in a competitive area, I don't know what area is not competitive anymore with aesthetics. Those lines are really becoming very blurred. But you do need to make sure that you're doing everything in your power to really, again, have Google like your website more, and to really have an active content strategy as well. So when I say an active content strategy, what I'm really referring to is having content on your website that is really relatable. So oftentimes, when someone is trying to find out more information, we're at the point where we're going to Google and we're asking questions like, hey, how long does Botox last? Does it hurt? Will I get food poisoning if I get Botox? Crazy stuff that patients might ask, once they actually are in the exam chair, but oftentimes they're actually going to Google first and asking those questions. So really the way that you want to have your website content oriented is in the form of questions and answers. And that should be for every single procedure that you offer within your practice, whether it's neuromodulators, whether it's for fillers, whether it's for weight loss injections, whether it's for anything that you really want to focus on. I want everyone to think about the top 5 to 7 questions that they get asked every single day. And these answers like the back of your hand already, about those certain procedures. So write those questions down. And if you are supplying the answer to those questions in the way that you would actually talk to a patient, that is the best way to also write content for your website. And again, the reason for that is because oftentimes, before we're actually sitting down in your exam chair asking you those questions, we're going to Google and asking these questions first, because there's so much accessibility that we have here across the internet. So if Google notices that your website actually on a localized level has the answer to that person's question, you're attracting someone who has a lot of intent, because they're asking really detailed questions, into your website. That is really how you convert a higher volume of the right types of patients. So I see websites all the time that say, hey, I offer Botox, I offer Kybella, I offer PRP, I do all these things, but it goes into zero detail about what those things actually are. And when you think about it, Google, I mean, put it this way, one of Google's favorite websites, no matter what you're searching for, AJ, you could be searching for your favorite sports team, favorite vacation destination, doesn't matter what it is. There's always one website that always appears really, really high within Google search. It's an encyclopedia style website. Everyone here has heard of it. It's Wikipedia. Why does Google love Wikipedia? Like literally, no matter what we're searching for, there is a Wikipedia page on that. Google loves Wikipedia because Wikipedia is a completely content-driven resource that is always being added to. There's always new content articles coming into Wikipedia. So you as an aesthetic provider, I want everyone to really think about your particular website should be the Wikipedia resource for anything that you do. So in other words, there needs to be a lot of content. There needs to be a lot of those questions and answers. And if you need help relative to how those should be oriented, the display of those questions, how they actually get integrated onto a website so that Google can actually read them better, then I encourage everyone to, again, schedule up a consultation with me because there is kind of a method to the madness when it comes down to that as well. Last topic here is paid search. So as I said at the very beginning of this conversation, paid search is really a mechanism that is really built upon, like, the success of a paid search campaign is predicated on everything else that we literally just covered. And that's why it's at the top of this pyramid here. So in other words, like, you can't run a successful paid search campaign. And by the way, paid search, it's taking out real estate within a Google search. So in other words, pay-per-click marketing, I'm sure everyone has heard that here. It's no different than taking out real estate within a Google search for keywords that you would want your website to appear for. And then every time that someone clicks on that ad, you get charged per click. So, I see this all the time where medical spas will come to me and they'll say, Robbie, I have a couple extra bucks, from a marketing budget standpoint, and I want to invest within paid ads. I say, okay, well, that's great. Let's take a look at, where things are at for you relative to your online presence. And I'll look at their website. Their website is 5 years old and it looks like junk. They don't really have a very active Google review strategy. They don't have an active social strategy. And the content on their website is horrible as well. Yet they want to run paid ads so that, immediately they can get someone into their website. It makes zero sense to do that, guys, because you need to have a solid foundation here before you do anything else. Before you do anything else more aggressive, and paid search tends to be more expensive. You want to make sure that you are really setting the proper foundational components into place here first before you're making any of those additional heavier investments, because again, the success of that type of campaign is highly predicated on everything else. So that's kind of the reason why we built out this pyramid. It's been thought about for many, many years, but when you really think about it, it makes a ton of sense to do things in a really sequential type of manner like that. But, again, if you are a practice who has a killer Google review strategy, you're happy with your website, you're happy with your social media presence, like that's when you would really want to think about maybe sprinkling in something like paid ads. And, generally speaking, if you hire a competent company who knows what they're doing, at least you should see for every $2 spent, for every $1 spent within ads, you should see a $2 return on top of that. So anyways, paid search is a part of what we do, but I'll be honest with you, if you have a bad website and bad Google reviews, I'll turn you away from that. So, and we'll talk about those more foundational strategies first. So anyways, we went through everything here. We talked about really building out this online presence, and this is our pyramid of success. Again, typically what I do in consultations and meeting with individuals is really go through everything here from soup to nuts to talk about really where you fit within, where are the deficiencies within your online presence. So, if you are so inclined to schedule up a meeting, this is actually a QR code here that you can scan and set up a meeting with me, and that would go directly into my calendar. Because again, you're coming to us, from AJ, if you're watching this, wanted to make sure that everyone was well taken care of as well within, different pricing options that we have here. I'm not going to go through this today with everyone, but just kind of know that, because of our affiliation with Dermaesthetic and everything, we do have better pricing here that is set up for you, that we do want to take care of you within your online presence. And we can talk about what this looks like, if you do schedule up a meeting. So right here is my direct contact information. This is a little bit more about us. And that's a wrap from me.
See, I learned something from you as well, Robbie. So touche.
Good. Yeah. So that's why we're a good match. But Rachel, if you're still with us, I hope you didn't fall asleep on us, Rachel.
I didn't know. I've been listening, taking notes, and just, you both of you, thank you guys both so much for your time. Thank you to everyone that's joined us. We have gone long, so we're not going to do questions. If you did ask a question, we will make sure to get it to either Robbie or AJ, depending on, or both. It's for both of them, and we will get you right in touch with them. Again, I will be sending out the recording tomorrow morning. So again, you can respond to that email with extra any questions, anything like that. And for that, have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for your time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.